Hello, welcome to another edition of Prove All Things. Want to thank everybody who's joining us today, whether you're watching on Facebook, YouTube, or X, or the CGI Digital Network app, whether that's on your phone, tablet, or television. Thank you for joining us. And thanks for everyone who's listening to this or watching this later. We thank you for joining us as well. I am joined with co-host Mike James. How you doing, Mike?
Hey, Jeff, doing okay. Good to see you. I guess this is our first program in the new year, right?
Yes, absolutely.
Wow, we've been doing this since when? How many years?
Oh man, I wish I was good enough to keep up with that. I know this is we're like 330 something episodes or whatever. So divide that by years. You're muted, Mike, for some reason.
Oh, 4 or 5 years, correct?
Yeah, 4 or 5 years.
Okay. Just thinking about that today. So
Yeah,
thanks.
yeah, it's been a while. So yeah, time does kind of fly when you're doing something.
Yeah, definitely,
We have
definitely.
have so many episodes. I don't remember half of them myself. I go back and look and say, oh, did we actually do that? Wow, a lot of different stuff. All right,
Right.
well. We have us a guest today who's brand new to the show, and we'll go ahead and bring him in right now, Mr. Leon Daniels. How are you doing,
Hello,
Leon?
everyone. Yeah, I'm
Hey,
doing
Leon.
good.
Hey,
I'm
thank you
doing
for
fine.
joining us today. Thank you for joining us today. So, where are you located at, Leon?
I'm in Murfreesboro, Tennessee, 30 miles southeast of Nashville. I'm in the
All right.
Nashville metropolitan area.
Okay, wonderful. Hey, it's great having you on. So we ask this of most people who come on our program. Can you give us like some background, like who you are, how long you've been in church, what you do, those type of things, and some people who are watching would definitely be interested in learning more about you.
Well, I got baptized after the feast. I got baptized Thanksgiving Eve of 1973,
Okay.
in the Worldwide Church of God. And I stayed there until 1978 after the feast. And I joined up with Ghana Ted Armstrong, the CGI. And we
Okay.
were sort of, I was in the early days of the church in Nashville. Well,
Hmm.
it actually started in Dixon, Tennessee, and we moved to Nashville.
Hmm.
So I was there back then. That's how long I've been around, up until the 90s.
Hmm.
And then when things start happening in the church in the 90s, what did you do? Or you became independent, or what was the situation for you from then till now?
Well, at that time in Tennessee, there were churches, little churches everywhere. They had a church in West Tennessee, churches in Knoxville. For a while, right after 95, and the thing saw it was, I was in I was at the Imperial Academy during the summer when all this stuff was breaking out. So I could see when I was down there, I could feel the tension. I didn't know what was going on, but I knew something was going on before the incident that I don't want to talk about, you know. And then the church started breaking up. So for a while, I just sort of freelance for a while. I had
Hmm.
Bible studies. I never had a church, like try to start a church or nothing, but I did have Bible studies for children for about 5 years. And
So
and
you were
and, and
down there at Imperial Academy in Tyler one time?
yeah, I was down there. The Not going into detail, but I was down there right before the split up with Ghana Ted and the church. And you know what happened there, but I'm not going into all of that. But I was in the atmosphere, and I could tell things. You could feel it, feel the tension down there.
I
Hmm.
got you. I
You
got you.
you
Yeah,
know,
I went to a couple of
you didn't know what
those.
it was.
I hear you. I hear you.
Yeah. So so I'm gonna and for a while, I tell you the truth. All I knew when the churches and the worldwide with all that was all going, what I knew was I didn't know what to do, but I was not going to just sit around and do nothing.
Hmm.
So one of the things I did, I started the Truth Will Set You Free radio program in a local station, and I didn't know what I was doing. So the first time I got on the radio, I left about 20 minutes dead time because I just panicked. But after that,
so,
after I
so,
made
so how long was the program supposed to be?
30 minutes,
And you only went. minutes.
30. About 10 minutes, and I just stood there. I was at the studio. I just froze. So that's
How long
I got a lot
how
of.
long were you doing radio?
I'm still on radio.
Oh, cool.
I've been off and on. I've been on there for 20 years, and I try to stay with what I try to not to prove how smart I am. I try to stay with the basic, simple stuff, simplicity
Mhm.
of Christ, and I don't have a church, and I tell people I'm not in the church building business, so I'm not on here for church. I'm on here to introduce you to make and let you be acquainted with the truth, the Lord of the Sabbath.
What's the
And I want you to know
station?
about.
What's the station there in Tennessee?
Well, you can look at you can look at it on the internet. It's WGNSradio.com.
WGNS
Yeah, radio, all one word, .com.
radio altogether.com.
Yeah, and it's 10:30 every Sunday morning. I've been doing it. I got off a while because I was broke. So when I got some money again, I got back on this. I've been on since I think I've been on about 6 years now.
Okay, and will that get to people in the greater Nashville community?
No, it get to them on the southeast side, but it won't go all the way into Nashville.
Okay,
No.
but they broadcast on the internet too, so anybody could get to it.
So the internet.
All right, let me make sure I got this correct. So it's WGNSradio.com. All right, I got it up on there for anyone who's interested. You can see it right there on the bottom of the screen. You can and then just look for what's the name of your program called on there?
It's called The Truth Will Set You Free. The Truth Will Set You Free. And in fact, I end the program, and this is sort of funny to me, the name of the program that I'm on right now. I said, I tell you now, as I tell you every week, let all things, hold fast those things which are true.
Mm-hmm.
And then, my point I was trying to make was the fact that I tell people to study all things, hold fast, all those things which are true. You will know the truth, and the truth will set you free. That's where I end the program every week.
Oh, okay. Is it a half hour?
It's a half hour, but now I've learned how to, if I run out of material, I learn how to add layers, so you won't know the difference.
So you make the half hour every time now. That's good to hear.
Yeah, right on time. I try to get be respectful and help the producer out a little bit.
Hey,
but my show is so controversial, they won't do me an intro. I have to do my own.
Oh, wow. Hey, there's a question, Leon. Life Lessons in our chat box here wants to ask you a question about what church you recommend. And I think we were talking earlier, you're kind of just open to lots of churches of God. We're all brothers and sisters, but you attend sometimes with a church out there right now, right?
I did. I've ever still missed a week, and that's I'm on. I used to travel once a month. You might not know this, but I used to travel once a month to go to East Tennessee, and I did the World Tomorrow program. If you go on somewhere on the internet, you'll see somewhere all of those famous people. You'll see down there to the bottom. You'll see my little name.
Okay.
And this is after Earl Timmons had the rights to the World Tomorrow program, so I did that about 6 months.
Okay. And
so
you visit with the United group sometimes, right?
United right now, believe it or not, they accept me as a member.
Okay. Yeah, and I'm a member, actually. When she asked the question, what church do you recommend? How would you answer something like that?
Well, in this area here, when I'm on the radio, United, I recommend them. I even tell them to look at United's website for information.
Gotcha. Very good.
Because
okay.
So that's what I'm recommending. If you was in Nashville right now, but if I was in another city, it might give you. I could give people more names, but it confuse them. So I just give them the name that I'm more familiar with. And so that's why I give them United. But it's not that I believe that no other church is true and all that stuff. I believe I got a limit. I don't want to go to a devil worshiping church or something.
Yeah, absolutely. All right.
but I do, but I try to reach out to all people and keep you. I try to build bridges and not walls.
Very
Okay.
good. I like how you put that.
All right. So, well, thanks for building some bridges with us today here on Prove All Things. It's great to have you with us. So, what topic do you have today that you would like to discuss with us today? Because I'm interested to hear.
I like to talk about. I like to talk about the book, but the book is B. So if I talk about me, I'm almost talking about the book. But my heart is in the natural CGI church that I gave my early years to. I have a personal. It's like working at a company for years. I have some blood investors in that church, and the book comes from the experience in all the churches. Is how the book was written. It was why the book.
What's the name of the book?
And if you
What's the name of the book, Leon?
The Influence of Babylon.
And this was published last year, right? I got a copy right here in front of me. Okay, looks like he froze there a little. Hopefully he'll come back. But I met Leon at a Unity of the Spirit conference in Montgomery, Alabama last summer. And I got one of his books, or his book here that he wrote. And it's called The Influence of Babylon, the carryover from ancient Babylon to the mainstream churches through Rome. And what he does in the book, Jeff, is let me just read a couple different chapter headings. Time of confusion, the spiritual church, priests of God, managing conflict 3 times a year. He gets into the holy days, more than a tithe, the God of all people, made in the image of God, your image of God. He gets into some political ideas towards the end of the book. Some of the racism he dealt with in his life.
Right.
Various things about Islam and the African experience in Europe and within Christianity. So again, very interesting cornucopia of items in this book. There are some things that are typical Church of God-like subjects, and then he expands into some other concepts and ideas, basically about his experience in the Church of God over the years, and then again, his human experience. What it says on the back about the author is his journey of faith began in humble circumstances. Born in 1942 in Nashville during the era of segregation, Daniels faced a world where a young black man was often denied his identity. He left school in the 8th grade and spent countless hours in the public library searching for answers to deep questions. Who am I? Who are black people? And looks like we got Leon back. Leon, I was just going into some of the chapters in the book and a little bit about your information on the back. But let me let Jeff, you answer Jeff's question again now that you're back.
I can't remember what question was I asking you, Leon? Do you remember?
I don't remember. I was talking it all over. I realized I was talking to myself.
Yeah, hey, Leon, if you ever get cut off again, just close out, and then come back in again, and just like you did, and we'll add you in. Okay.
Let me throw this one at you, Leon, and then Jeff can think of maybe what he had there. But the question I had, Leon, was what motivated you to write this book? What was the motivation? What was the purpose you wanted for this book?
You know, that's even the name of the book. Let me go back to the radio program. In 1995, I started a radio program, not knowing what I was doing and all that. I went through that. What happened is there's a lot of sermons that I gave, speeches on the program over the years, and sermons that I gave in person. So when I started to put the book together, about 15 years or a few years ago, I had an idea to write a book. I didn't know what to do then either. And the name, The Influence of Babylon, came out of somewhere. I'm not, I named it, so it must have been me. But why I named it The Influence of Babylon, I don't know. But when I got the book in my hand and started reading it, I saw that a theme, although the information in this was compiled over like 30 years, the common theme through that whole book, it wasn't written together as a book. It was a bunch of just disjointed sermons. And I put it together, and the common theme was the influence of Babylon.
Yeah, you know what's interesting? What's interesting about the book? Again, I'm about halfway through it. Is it is a number of the chapters are standalone vignettes. There is a thread of the influence of Babylon in a lot of that, no doubt. But you could read a chapter and get the sense of it, and then read a chapter farther into the book and not lose any connection, because it's not all connected like a lot of books are. It's individual little vignettes, I think, in each chapter. Would you agree that that's what you're doing there?
I agree that's what happened, but I don't know whether the book is. I wrote the book, and when I picked the book up and read it myself, and I'm the one that did all this. It's a mystery to me, and I wrote it.
Yeah.
And I kept praying to God, "You sure I did this?" So I give all glory to God on the book. I wrote it. I might have put my name on it, and I might have. But when I read the book myself, I feel the intervention from God, not from me. God gets the glory.
And I think, Jeff, you just put the Amazon information. Yeah. We had a question, where's this book available?
Yeah.
And again, Amazon, it is on Amazon for sure.
Yeah, if you just search this title, you'll find it on Amazon pretty quickly, because I was able to find it just searching the title. And
Amazon, but it's on every outlet it's on a bunch of them. I don't know where you can miss it. You couldn't miss it. You go to Walmart and get it.
Oh, really? Okay. So it's on all kinds of different places you can find this book.
Yeah.
All right. So of this book, so Mike, I don't have a copy of the book, so I need to get a copy now, because it looks like it's going to be very interesting. So of the different chapters, like, what are some of the chapters about that you read, and how do they relate to the influence of Babylon? If you just give me one.
One of those, my favorites, there's a God that we can see. Mankind is looking for a God who can see. The background was, when I left the worldwide, I wanted to leave the worldwide because I was unhappy with the dominating, the control ministry, and not giving people the opportunity to grow. It was sort of dictated to what you should do, and you just follow the leader. So I wanted to go somewhere else, and then when I got it international, they didn't have a ministry or something, so there was more opportunity for the individual to grow by getting involved. So I enjoyed that thing. But that is not the reason I wrote that particular. I did that sermon on the radio. It's mainly because I found myself not doing what Cornelius did. When Cornelius was in trouble, when we wanted to pray, he went straight. He didn't go to a man. He went straight to God. So I was going to one, W, Donald T, Ronald Down, looking for that leader, that God, that somebody to lead me, because I didn't trust that God. I didn't trust what Paul said in Ephesians, the 2nd chapter, verse 18, that we all have access to the Father. We weren't taught that. We were taught to go through the ministry, and that's why that book was written. We got to stop looking for God we can see. And two of the main, one of them is describing what Aaron did when he made the golden calf, and he said that this is your God, O Israel. I mean, they had a God they can see. And the other one is when Samuel was asked to have a man. They asked him why they have a king that a man that they could see. They didn't want invisible God. So that's where that came from. And right after that one is in the book, that right behind each other. Salvation is a personal responsibility. We are not taught to accept responsibility for our own salvation. We want to blame somebody. So that's part of it. And I saw little things like this all the way through. and that's where the book comes from. The little
Mhm.
thing. It's almost like a man that's trying to prove the church wrong, but I'm not. I'm trying to. I told the pastor this, and he thought I was crazy. God, there's never was a time in the church where that I know of in the Bible I read that there was then God did correct course, correct the course. I think one of the main reasons Paul the apostle was called because the the brethren, the original apostles, never understood before Paul that the gospel was not a nationalistic message; it was a universal message.
Mhm.
And Paul brought that to them because Jesus, I guess Jesus taught him in the desert, whatever. But he brought that to the church, and that's when the church started to transform to a
Mhm.
universal church. In Book of Acts, it all happens in Book of Acts, so you see that.
Mhm.
Yeah,
If that makes
I like one chapter in here you got that makes that point that it wasn't God may have used a nation for a while, but God is using different things in the history of mankind to bring about His final goal, which is the unity of all people under God. It doesn't matter Gentile, Jew. I love that chapter. You had a couple scriptures in there I hadn't thought about. Even in Ezekiel 47, which is we believe is out into the future, talks about the fact that part of God's plan was to unite all people, like from the beginning, before Israel was a nation, God was trying to get man to follow Him. But of course he didn't. He was trying to work with everybody, but they didn't get it. Then he gets to a nation, they don't get it. Now he comes back to everybody again. What are your thoughts on that, Leon?
my thought on that is what Peter said in Acts the 10th chapter, I think in verse 34. When he came to Cornelius, he said that this God that he's talking about is the God that first came through Israel. And that's an important point. If you got a God that you preaching to God that didn't come through that didn't come through Israel and the Jews, you got a false God.
Right. No doubt that's an important part of God's strategic plan and His process. And I think there are things we don't know, details we don't know
Mhm.
of why God has played it out the way that He has, but we've got enough information to get us to that kingdom. That's the most important thing.
You remind me of something that I try to stay true to is was it Matthew 11 verse 25, where it says that Jesus was praying to the Father in heaven, the creator of the heaven and earth. He said that he prayed to God, he thanked God for not giving knowledge to the wise and the prudent, but to the babes, to the simple
Mhm.
man. And I think that that in the churches of God, we have a lot of vanity because we have a lot of knowledge, and
Mhm.
sometimes we're condescending.
Yeah,
'Cause
yeah, no doubt. That's been a criticism
Mhm.
of Church of God movement at certain times in our history.
Mhm.
I think we're getting better at that today. When I look, but it's still out there.
Mhm. Mhm.
It's still out there. You're right.
And I agree with that. And knowledge, we saw the thing that the more knowledge we got, the more the closer to God. That's not. I go back to Daniel. What I'm trying to say is, when Daniel went to the king and told the king about his dream, he said one thing. That's the second chapter of Daniel, where he says that he didn't have God didn't give him this knowledge because he was wiser than all other men.
Mhm.
God gave him the knowledge so he could help the king.
Yeah,
And
Mhm.
so
you're
you
hitting
understand?
on a
Right.
major point there. Humility. Humility's throughout the Bible, and I think it's an important characteristic we need to have as Christians. And again, meeting you for the first time down there in Montgomery last summer, I definitely appreciated your humble nature.
Mhm.
What do you got to tell the audience about humility and humbleness, and how important that is in our relationship with others and with God?
First of all, as a person who speaks and in front of an audience, one of the things that I noticed over the years, and I want every young preacher, everybody to understand, Never talk down to the church, to the people in the audience, to your brothers. Never talk down to. Realize that in any audience, somebody, whatever subject you talk about, somebody could know as much as you or more. So you never talk down to them, and they can detect when you're talking down to them, and they'll
Mhm.
resent it. Another thing that I noticed, just especially to the young preachers speaking, that most people in the Church of God, they're all around the country. If you're speaking, they're on your side. They're pulling for you. They don't have to know you, but if you're ever speaking, they want you to succeed, and you have to realize that, and you have to, and they give you 15 minutes. But if you talk more than 15 minutes, you got to earn their respect. You got to be saying something, and then that's basically things like that.
Mhm.
And the main thing though is that if you want to serve God, you don't have to be a part of the organization part of what they do together. We're gonna get together and go to a nurse home. You can do things on your own. There are opportunities all around you. You just got to. You don't have to look for.
Mhm.
And the last thing that to do what God tells us to do about giving, our resources to poor people, not the church, to anybody that need help. To the world, you're gonna look like a fool. To be a Christian to the world, if you turn the other cheek and all that stuff, you're gonna look like a fool to the world. So you
Mhm.
can't let the world judge your activity. You have to just keep your mind. And the main thing is, if you're going to worship a God, you need to study the Bible to learn something about the God that you worship, not depending on me or anybody else. You have to get that relationship with God yourself, a personal
Mhm.
relationship with God. You have to develop that relationship. And I think that's why we come together on the Sabbath. So we can together go before the Father, and as we develop our relationship with the Father, if we get more in tune or in harmony with the will of God, then we come close together as brothers.
Mhm.
And
Hey,
that's
Leon, is this your first book you've written, or have you written other books?
now that's the first book I've written. Yeah,
Okay.
I'm not a writer.
Yeah.
I just like the reason that I wrote the book. You asked a while
Yeah.
ago that I thought there was things that was missing in the book. And be honest with you, I didn't start out like that. I started out. I didn't tell the whole story a while ago. When I came to Herbert W. Church, I wrote in the letter the night, it was in August 1973. I wrote them telling them in particular, I wanted the knowledge to give to black people. Now, over the years, I knew that I wanted to put the gospel in a package that black people would accept it. It never worked, but that's what I was thinking. But because I knew the church there was some sensitive things in the black community that the church wasn't addressing.
Mhm.
And that's why I did it. That was my drive. I come out, I come through the Black Liberation Movement and all of that. So I had it all mixed up. But as I grew older, and God worked with me, and now color doesn't make any difference. The gospel for all people.
Mhm. Absolutely.
You know,
Hey,
you know.
question. When you were first in the worldwide, I know the world was a lot different then. Did they treat you differently because you were black in the worldwide?
Yeah, I got in trouble in my first time that I gave a speech at the Sportsman Club. I got in trouble because I brought up some black issues that they didn't like, and so they sort of stayed away from me. And last time I gave a speech in the Sportsman Club was a speech about love. And somebody sent one of the black brothers to me and told me don't talk about. I won the award that night. There were about 35 people there. There was a
Mhm.
time when they had the people who had graduated to come back. It was a special event because normally we held about 10 or 15 people. But this time we had, I said 35 people. It was for everybody that ever been to the Sportsman Club, was there. So I gave a speech about the winning team using Vincent Lombardi and Anderson, the guy from Cincinnati. When they asked them why were they winners, they said because the team members loved each other, and that's what I would base it on. And
Mhm.
but it won the award and all that stuff. But but the more effective speaker award. But about 2 weeks later, I was supposed to be scheduled to speak again, and the guy come to me and said, "Your brothers don't want you to talk about love." That never made sense to me.
What did they explain? Did they explain what the problem was they had with that?
I don't know.
Mhm.
But
Okay.
that's the kind of environment I was in. It was there was a long way from where where we should have been.
Mhm.
Okay.
But,
What year? What year? Do you remember what year that was?
It had to be around. So I came out in 70. It had to be between 70, about 76, 70, something in there.
Okay.
So wait a minute, no, before then, because it was around, yeah, I said 76. That's a good year.
Mhm.
75.
Okay.
Yeah.
Got it. Yeah, I notice towards the end of the book, you do get into some historical things, Black experience. Again, one of our ministers, I don't know if you ever knew Bronson James.
Yeah, I knew it. I knew it real well.
Okay, so he gave some good sermons on some of the experiences he had in
Mhm.
Worldwide in the early years. I remember he went to Pasadena and
Mhm.
he was going to show up at church for the first time. And he went to the main hall there in Pasadena and they told him that the Black folks had to go down to the LA church. And he, that was very glaring
Mhm.
error on their part to have that separation, especially when we read the New Testament and there's neither Jew nor Greek, male nor female, free or
Mhm.
bond. We're all one in Christ. But when you look back on those types of experiences, do you think it was just lack of knowledge, that the times were influencing even the church? What do you, when you look back on those types of things, what are your thoughts on it years later?
The first real experience I had that I was the first year that I kept the feast at Jackal Island. The first year I kept the feast anywhere.
Mhm.
They had this big. I was just just amazed. 10,000 people in one place. And but I was helping put. We used to put a tar ridge around the outside of the tent so that when it rained, the water wouldn't run. Would come down under the people's feet there. That's how bad it would be. I didn't rain when I was there, but they had experience
Mhm.
with that. So I worked all day long. I was working for God. I was new, and I was out there
Mhm.
working, had towel in my hand. And I had a couple of bad experiences there. I was playing with one deacon like I was going to shake his hand, and he looked at me just with, you know, just like that's the worst thing in the world. And I know he knew I was playing. I wasn't going to really shake hands with him. I had towel in my hand. I was just this. And the other time I turned around and looked at the guy behind me with a shovel in my hand. And he was standing with a woman, and he asked me why was I looking at his woman, and I was hurt. I was so hurt, I cried.
What
I
what
cried all
year
day long.
what year what year did those incidents occur?
This had to be 74.
Mhm.
Okay.
And I cried on the way home. I didn't even walk down the street to the hotel in Jackal Island.
Mhm.
I wanted to be by myself, so I walked on the beach all the way to the hotel. It wasn't that far,
Yeah.
like a block or something. I cried, I said, God, whatever you got me into.
Mhm.
And then, but when I went down, changed clothes, it was the eve of the night, the first night, the first night of the feast. I went home and went to the hotel and my kids and everything, changed clothes and went back to the feast. And one of the best feasts I ever had in my life.
Yeah.
Somehow God just moved over there. It should have kind of, made my feast a bad feast, but it wasn't. It was the best feast I ever had.
Mhm.
Yeah,
So,
you bring up an interesting point for me because I remember when I first started learning the truth that I was, learning about in the Plain Truth and the booklets. It was very eye-opening to me, and I thought, as a young man of 17 or 18, that there's a perfect church out there.
Mhm.
But then I came to realize that hey, human beings are human beings, no
Mhm.
matter where they are, even if they're in what we call God's church or have the truth of the Bible.
Mhm.
We're still carnal. We still got problems and
Yeah.
issues to deal with and overcome. And it doesn't matter what organization you're in.
Yeah, I
and
I would think I think that the issues that were in worldwide that were racial issues were probably prevalent in all of society. If you look at maybe Baptist churches or other churches at the time,
I,
there was the same
I,
type of rules. It was
I
very
agree.
much prevalent in our society, and I think our society has gotten better about that. Where I guess we don't we don't have that definitely in CGI. I'm sure other churches don't as well, but that was just the way things were. It was a
Yeah, yeah.
very
And,
segregated
and, me,
society.
and me coming up in the segregated South, although I was hurt right that moment, you know, it wasn't nothing that I hadn't ran into before. It wasn't like this was a new experience. You know, I'm raised in, you know, so I could. But let me tell you this: I left church for a while. I didn't go to the CGI anywhere else for a while in the 70s. And I
Mhm.
once and God bless me, I'm making more money I ever made and everything else. But once Sabbath, I said, God, I'm tired of this. I got to go back to church. And I said, but the people, you know, I've been treated kind of bad and been hurt, and I don't know how to deal with it. And every time I said that prayer all day long, my wife was gone, and I said the prayer to myself, you know, in the house by myself. And then the only thought that came in my mind every time I prayed, when I got up off my knees, just that, and this has been my philosophy or the practice through the rest of my life. I'll practice this. You got to learn how to forgive.
Mhm.
That's the answer. You know, whatever somebody do to you, I mean, I can't hold it against them. You know, I have to love my enemy, pray for the ones who
Yeah.
persecute me. So I just learn how to forgive.
Mhm.
And
And I have
that's such an important quality to have as a Christian when we have scriptures talking about, hey, if they're coming to you and they have a forgiving heart, you gotta forgive them. Doesn't matter how many times you got to keep forgiving them. What's your advice to people who've been hurt or upset by incidents in life, past circumstances? Doesn't even have to be related to the racial issues, but
that's right.
anything in your past where someone has hurt you. What's your advice to those people of getting over it?
You know, the thing that we are instructed to be patient with a long suffering. The long suffering, love, that's part of of the description that Paul gives of love. One of them is long suffering. The same thing, the fruit of the spirit. You have to be
Mhm.
long suffering. And I have decided, just by observation of being old, when he asked me to be long suffering, I don't have to be a long suffering with my family and my spiritual family. Because
Mhm.
what happened in Africa or in Europe somewhere where those people they're not doing anything to me to hurt me.
Mhm.
That I know of, the ones that hurt me are the ones that are the closest to me.
Mhm.
And so I have to suffer with them, understanding that they're not any perfect than I am. We all got issues, and we all have, and so the instruction for me is to pray for them, not to be mad at them. And
Mhm.
it's hard. You have to learn it over the years. I'm 83 now, and I'm still practicing. But
Mhm.
so I just don't hold grudges.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah,
So
And
you're 83 now. So when did
yeah,
you start writing the book? What age were you when you started writing this book?
actually, there are things in that book like I said, I started out, you know, this that was written in 1995, 1996. I got a date
Okay.
on. So I started to compile the book about. I got some paper here. I think it's around uh, 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 2012 when I
Okay.
decided I didn't know how to go write a book. So and I think I did a table of contents and stuff like that, you know, starting it out. But I didn't
Mhm.
know how I was going to publish it. I didn't know about all these publishing things that you can do now. But
Mhm.
I didn't know how it was going to get published. And I had a guy named Ken Swagger. He used to be he has his own church now, but he used to be in the CGI in Knoxville. He sent me some stuff on it, and I looked at it, didn't understand it, so I never did. So all at once, one day, something showed up on in my text messages, and then it said, well, you know, and I talked to that guy, and I found out that, you know, for a fee, I could get it published. That's when I got it published. But it's been in
Mhm.
the works for years.
Mhm.
And you know, like I said, there's things in the book that's tied together, and there's themes and stuff that it just I'm not a very smart person. You know, I'm not dumb. I was an engineer and all that, but I was not a real engineer. I was an associate. I went to a community college, and I know what a real engineer is like, and how much respect I have for the people who go to 4 year schools and they have this intelligence. And I have a gift, but it's not because I'm smart. It's just seeing things the way that I don't know what you call it. You just see reality,
Mhm.
you know, and I know that's a gift from God.
Yeah. I guess
yeah, no
going
doubt.
back to you know, the fact that God doesn't call the smartest people, right? We're not the
Yeah,
smartest people on this show. We're definitely not the smartest people you'll find. Rather, we always wonder why God doesn't call these really smart intellectual people, the people with all these college degrees, or somebody with a lot of money, like because like if Elon Musk got called, man, just think of the tithe money, how much we could do with that tithe money to spread the
Oh man.
gospel. But God doesn't do that, does he? God uses the poor and the not so smart people to do his work.
And First Corinthians, the first chapter, verse 29 says, "So no one can glory in His presence. You can't boast in His presence." So
Absolutely.
up to God, if God's standing on your neck, and you know that God, it used to be a time. Every time I used to be, like most people, I learned the truth, and I was sort of condescending and arrogant with it. And every time I tried to tell somebody something in the Bible that I knew was there, and I tried to show it to them, it disappeared. I couldn't find it. I said, I
Mhm.
know it was there yesterday. Like, we got to get the scripture. So finally, I got the message that that I'm putting my own ego ahead. We all got egos. We say we don't, but we have to manage that. But the older you get, the more mellow you get. The ego is not as important. You know that you don't have a long time, so you trying to clean up the mess before the time before the final call when you get my age.
Mhm.
Hey,
So you got.
Leon, we got a question here from one of the people listening in right now in the chat box. It's Super Jim 77. He says it's based on the use of the term Babylon, I think you're using with your book. So he's asking if anybody or any organization is anti-Christ, are they considered in a state or spirit of Babylon? So how would you answer that? You got an answer for that?
Well, I described Babylon, the Babylon, and I do it in the book,
Mhm.
as a religious financial system that the world is under right now. So
Mhm.
the whole world is under straight. Even in the scripture that I use, Revelation 18:4, even the ones who know we're close to God, know we're trying to think God, even asked us to come out of Babylon. So Babylon's a whole lot more powerful than we think. I think it's the whole system
Mhm.
that we deal with, the education system, everything we deal with is part of it comes, a lot of the stuff comes through Babylon. A lot of the symbols on the dollar come from a pagan source.
Mhm.
So again, and again, being anti-Christ, again, that for me, that's against, the principles and the values of Christ. Definitely the world does show those that it is anti-Christ. So you would agree that in a general sense, I guess, is what this person is asking. Being anti-Christ
Right.
is part of the spirit of Babylon, I guess,
Yeah,
right?
that is and it shows up in some of the beliefs that we practice. Like
Mhm.
Christmas and all that. That
Mhm.
that that's symbols of Babylon to me.
Gotcha,
Yeah, I
gotcha.
guess I guess like you were saying, in our world system, there's systematic like things that are part of the system that are antichrist, right? That are
That's
just
right.
built into it, into the education, into politics.
Yeah.
Whether no matter what side you're on in politics, they're all essentially antichrist because they don't promote God's word and His laws and His truth. None of them do. There's none out there that does that.
And right now, what was that? 9/11.
Mhm.
I was at work, and it was a sad day, by the way. It wasn't a sad day of my life to be at work and see this happen. I was it's just like a black cloud came over. From my point of view, like a black cloud came over the whole country. He just didn't, we were just disorientated for a while. But what happened was that Friday, the president, in all good intentions, asked for prayer, and he had people at the White House, the Capitol. Well, he had the Muslims there, he had the Christians there, he had Jews there, and then God, he got everybody except us. The Church of God, we're not represented at all. So that's one of the symbols of Babylon. They don't know us.
I got you. I got you. Yeah, yeah. So no doubt. when I met you at this Unity of the Spirit conference there in Alabama last year. When you look at the state of the Church of God movement today, and all the dissolving of organizations and independent groups, and we've got all kinds of splinters, just like regular Christianity. What do you think of all of that? Is there any advice you can give to the people out here in trying to become more united?
I asked the question back in the year that we I was working with other people. There was a bunch of churches in, but anyway, outside the mainstream church. And we got together, and I asked the question on the Bible study, the open Bible study, how much diversity can we have and still be work together as the Church of God? I still haven't answered that question.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
I mean,
I don't know.
That is a good question.
I don't know who has the answer to that question other than God or Christ, right? It's very, very tough. Here's a question related to your book, and I think this is that Belinda is putting on here. How does one come out of Babylon? So if the world's Babylon, and there's so many Babylonian influences out there, even amongst the churches of God, how does one come out of Babylon? What would be your advice to people like that?
My quick answer is, if you want to come out of Babylon and want instructions how to come out of Babylon, to start with, read Matthew 5, 6, and 7.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, the Sermon on the Mount.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, you read that, and we don't practice. Most of us don't practice most of that stuff, So that when he made the law, transformed the law from being a physical thing to a spiritual thing, he magnified the law. That's what we have to understand, the magnification of the law.
Mm-hmm.
Not only can we commit adultery, we can't think about it.
Mm-hmm.
That's a good answer for Belinda. Matthew 5, 6, and 7 is a great place to start. I would agree with that. Yeah,
that's definitely scriptures. Like you said, we all none of us live up to the standards of 5, 6, and 7. None of us do, but we can study. We can let God's Spirit work through us, and hopefully, we can make progress.
You got the roadmap. You got the roadmap. You might not be doing it, but you got the right roadmap. If you don't have the roadmap, you can't even get there.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Hey, we got about 12 minutes left on the show today, Leon. Is there any aspect of the book you'd like to promote right now? A certain chapter or chapters that you felt you really needed to get in the book? Anything else you'd like to say about the book right now?
To my black brothers out there, or black people anywhere that's not in the church, the last 2 chapters dedicated for the black people. And the fact is, before the Negro, that's the main one where at the beginning of it, I said this book would help. I hope this information would help us to not have the blacks not to have an inferior complex, and the whites not have a superior complex, because that's one of the problems in the country. Mm-hmm. You can't come through what black people come through for 400 years or 200 years, whatever, and not have some sort of inferiority complex. It's just so you have to come combat that. We all have inferior complex to something, but I think blacks have some of the things that we do exaggerated. Things that we do to bring attention to ourselves, it comes from the inferiority complex. Like people want to be black Hebrews, and I think that's one of the byproducts of slavery. That's one of the reasons I wanted to put those 2 chapters in there. It's for everybody, but I want my black brothers to read it.
Mm-hmm. I think that's a great point you're making there. Everybody has dealt with some type of, I'm not good enough in your upbringing. But again, the black experience in the United States is something us white folks have not experienced.
Yeah.
You have to live it to really know what it's like.
Yeah.
And you're making a great point, because when I look back, I've done some research on the Black Hebrew Israelite movement. And again, one of the originators of that movement, going back to right after slavery, was a guy who was a slave. And when I read his autobiography, when I look at his, did research on him, Mr. Cherry, and there was another fella, you see these experiences may have led them in that direction that they went. Again, they got the Sabbath and the holy days, but then they got some things wrong too, major things wrong in how they're looking at the different races and things of that nature. But yeah, I can totally relate to that point you just made, for sure.
And I think that, in my journey, I started out basically in that world. I mean, I started off in the Malcolm X teaching and Stokely Carmichael and all that stuff. And that's a conflict. I mean, it doesn't make sense if you go back to get my background and then go back to see where I am. You have to believe that I'm crazy or that there's a God somewhere. I mean,
Yeah.
Because I changed completely over the years. When people ask me what color, I don't even get into the debate about what color Jesus was. I don't care.
Yeah, right. It doesn't matter.
Yeah.
It doesn't matter, because again, what's the New Testament tells us when you're of Christ, we're all one. It doesn't matter gender, it doesn't matter race, it doesn't matter ethnicity. We're bigger. We're bigger than that. We're beyond that.
We are adopted into the family of Abraham. We're spiritual children of Abraham. That's what it says. What's that? Galatians, the 3rd chapter, the 4th chapter. What you just repeated. But we become. That's another thing. I don't think we see the spiritual family. We still put the physical family or the physical thing above the spiritual thing. God said we are a holy nation. That nation is composed of people from every nation on earth, from every physical nation on earth.
Right.
But we don't see that spiritual nation now. We see a glimpse of it. He said our citizenship is in heaven, but I don't think mentally we really get into it. We still hold on. I'm a black man. This is black liberation and all that stuff. And I know that, and that's what I try to get out of it.
Hey, let me ask a question. I guess because we got your experiences when you were first in Worldwide. The world was a lot different then. That the world's different now. And I don't know because I have a wide experience, and I don't know what it is to be black in America. Have things gotten better? Do you feel like things have gotten better in the church, better in our country, or is there still a lot of room to be made for that?
Right now, what I see right now in the black community, what I started out with it, and not only in the black community, there's some of the poor whites that come up, generational poor, that have the same attitude. Is that we don't realize that like in where I am right now, and they have vocational school all over Middle Tennessee. You can go to a vocational school and get a certificate or a 2-year degree and make a lot of money now. You don't have to be a college graduate. You just learn a trade. And I don't think that a lot of people, I found it out when I went to a community college. I had young people, black and white, would come to me. I said, I want your job. I said, you can have my job. How old are you? They said, I'm like, you can be a doctor by the time you're 30. It's out there. I don't think they understand the opportunity in the education that you have in America if you just go and look for it. There's education. I got 2 college degrees, and I didn't get them until I was the first one until I was 38. The second one I fought and I don't get about it, and it was all paid for. It's the resources are out there if we really want to improve ourselves. All we got to do, and then people will help you on the way.
Yeah, you're making a great point there. I'm living here in California now, and my daughter just started community college. Community college in California is essentially free. It's essentially free. And that's why I wanted her to make sure she knows what she wants to get into. But let's take advantage of what we got here. Again, we've been blessed in this country. Again, that's a whole other subject on to get into. We're not going to get into that today, but I think, there have been some blessings here that we need to take advantage of. And, the past may have been bad, but let's look at where we're at today and try to build for tomorrow. Yeah.
It's the same in Georgia. In Georgia, if you have I think a B average in school, that they have something in Georgia that kids can go to college for free in Georgia in Georgia
Yeah,
school. That's a good opportunity for people to work for. You know.
it is, and in my case, I even had a job with TVA.
Mhm.
I had 2 kids, and I was 37 years old when
So
I started.
TVA, you mean Tennessee Valley Authority?
Oh yes, I'm thinking everybody from here, Tennessee Valley
That's
Authority. But I work with them, and they help me if I was going through college. Go to
yeah.
Florida.
Tell the folks what they do, Leon, with your
Oh,
engineering background.
yeah, they generate. They run generator plants and they transmit electrical power to the utility companies. They don't go in for the utility company, and they also manage the flood. Tennessee used to have a lot of floods all over the place, and then
Mhm.
they kind of build these dams and things. They get too valid. They build a dam. They control the water and the floods, and they also generate electricity. So it's all they do a lot of things to help. In fact, that's why Tennessee is one of the leading places that people want to come now because we have cheap power to
Mhm.
run the manufacturing, So, and that's why the schools are jumping now too, because the industry won't come here if they don't have some trained personnel, people that are equipped to to do the technical stuff in their establishment. So Tennessee is jumping right now. Not that I like it. I live 30 miles from all the activities because I don't want to be in the middle of, I'm not a city person now. I was raised in the city, but I live in the country now because it's peaceful.
Gotcha.
But now the opportunities is there for young people now that really want to. I don't care who you are, how up until 30 or 40. I know you can. You older than that, I guess. But there's a time it's gonna run out. But one of the blessings of America. There's never. You always have the opportunity to be the best you can be. You can drop out of school and go back to school and get a GED and go to college. And as long as you live, you can go back to school if you want to improve yourself. And I don't know no other nation that does that.
Yeah. You know what? You talk about the opportunities there. There's also opportunities in God's church, right? We have
Yeah.
opportunities that if you're called in the God's church, you have opportunity to change your life,
Amen.
to overcome sin, to change your life. You have
Okay.
opportunity if God calls you to go out like you did. You had opportunity. You wrote a book. That's amazing, right? Opportunities are out there for people in God's church
And
as
you got
well.
on the radio program
Yeah,
too.
radio program. Wow. Yeah.
Yeah, and I didn't know what I was doing, and I learned how to negotiate contracts and everything by
Yeah.
doing it. I mean, I had to learn just by jumping out there doing it.
Hmm.
Right.
And but the church said that I have to give all credit to a lot of credit to the church, the worldwide, not the leadership necessary, but there were people my age when I was in church, 31, 32, and I consider myself a high school. Not even a high. I didn't go to high school. I didn't think that I was able to go to college. So, and I did have the GED, but I didn't have any respect for the GED. I thought it was just a joke. But the guy was coming to me in the end of their 30s and said, "Man, I got 2 kids like me." He said, "Now, why don't you go back to college?" I said, "Man, I can't go to college. I got to take care of these kids." So, there was a lot of encouragement in the church. It was a culture in the church to go back to college when you come in the church. It didn't come from the top. It was just there. And a lot of the guys went back to college when they was in their 30s and ended up teaching school and doing a good job. They knew their life was not over with because they were 30 years old and had 2 kids. So it was a church culture. I'm assuming that came from God.
Gotcha.
God gets the glory.
Hey, as we're winding down here, Leon, any closing thoughts that you want to leave the audience? And I think Jeff may be able to put the information about the radio station and the book back up there too as we close out. But what
Yeah.
are your
That's the
closing
radio.
thoughts?
That's the radio right there.
The main important thing to me, especially since we spoke on the book to me was really not inspiration. It wasn't to bring people out of the Church of God, but to do this basically like the letters written to the churches in Revelation. He wrote to the two churches, but he told them that there are things they need to correct it. Need to correct it. Churches need to be. You understand? The church need to be corrected all the way through history. I mean, they didn't know that Jesus wasn't coming back in their time. I mean,
Mhm.
they thought he could. So they're always, this is what I'm saying. There have always been people outside the norm that's not part of the strategy, but outside the norm that God sent to the norm to say we need to correct courses. That's all the way through the Bible. Well, the
Mhm.
person that you know, so I am nobody and not important to anybody, but God can use me. The Bible is wrong.
Mhm.
You know, that's funny that you put it that way, because as I was reading through your book, I was struck by some things where, oh, you know, I hadn't thought of that angle before,
Mhm.
or oh, that's an interesting opinion he has there. I haven't thought about that, to make me check myself, you know.
Yeah.
So I'm
And
getting
that's the
some of that
purpose.
in the book, what you just said. That's interesting.
And that's the purpose of the book. It's not to condemn the church, but to enhance, you know, to
Mhm.
critique the church so we be better. And that's it. But
Yeah,
sometimes,
you are saying in there that hey, take a look at it, think about. You aren't like saying I'm right and you're wrong.
no,
You're
at
saying
the
this
first,
is just take a look at this, think about
Right.
this.
and at the first of the book in the introduction, I said I write this in fear and trembling. I know I'm a man. I could be wrong too, and I pray to
Mhm.
God to use me. So
Yeah.
it wasn't like that I was condescending. I have the authority and all that stuff. No, I don't have it.
Mhm.
Yeah,
I just wrote a book for what I thought I saw. This is what I see, and it's what I put in the book. And I thought it was important that it be recorded in somewhere, for you know, in a record. Even after I'm gone, people can read the book.
yeah, right on. And again, our show here, we call it Prove All Things, Leon. And I've had
Mhm.
people get upset with me because they say, you didn't prove, you got to prove that this is this or that's that on the show. I said, you know what? Some things we can't prove
Mhm. Yeah.
100%. And that's part of what this show's about too, to
I
say,
think
hey,
it's
you can
good.
still have dialogue and
That's
see
right.
that there's some different views on some stuff. I do believe that there is certain doctrines we need to hold to, no
Absolutely.
doubt about it. But a lot of things, there's a lot of information back and forth on it.
Mhm.
Yeah, and the main thing I want to say to everybody, I got a lot of sins that I need covering, so I'm gonna find somebody to love. I
Mhm.
gotta love somebody because love covers a multitude of sin. Love has always had to, we always have to put that love thing in front of
Mhm.
everything else. You know, we
Very
disagree on
good.
that. Do I love you? Do I love you? You know,
Yeah, I think that's a big concept in the
Yeah.
Bible.
Yeah, I think that's one of the biggest concepts, I
Yeah,
guess. 'Cause isn't the law all about loving God and loving our neighbor? That's
yeah,
all about love. And
you know,
so love is and God is love. Does it say God is love? So
yeah.
yeah.
yeah, so love's one of the most important things. I hate that they didn't want you to talk about love back then, but I'm glad you're talking about love with us today. We definitely
Yeah, see,
we need more of it.
we let you talk about it here. Okay.
I appreciate that too.
Yeah,
But I tell you, being on this program, being a CGI program, is almost like being back home, coming back home.
yeah,
Okay.
I've been gone
Well,
a long
hey,
time.
you never left us. We never left you. We're
yeah,
all together, even if we're in different groups and
yeah.
organizations and things. You know that
Mhm.
we're all called out, man. Yeah.
Yeah.
Amen.
All part of the true church, yes. All right. Hey,
Amen.
thank you, Leon, for joining us today. It was very much a pleasure to hear your story, to hear about your book. Makes me want to go out and get this book now, off of Amazon or wherever I can get it. And Mike has a copy, and so he's holding up right there. So definitely really nice cover too. That's
Yeah.
it's really attractive looking book as well. So available on Amazon for anyone that's interested. Leon's book, and I look forward to reading it, and I guess having you back on a future program. Would you come back and be with us on a future program? Because this was really a great conversation. Really
Yeah,
great to hear the things you
I'll be
said
glad
today.
to come. I'll be glad to. If you invite me, I'll accept. Yeah, I will.
Yeah, think about a specific topic you want to get into, Leon. We can flesh it out a bit, okay?
I'll do that next time. Yeah. Okay.
Okay.
All right. Again, thanks again. Thanks for everybody for joining us today, for your comments, and for joining us live, and for everyone else. Thank you for joining us. We'll see everybody next week on another edition of Prove All Things. Goodbye for now.